Hello, superwomen, and the growing number of you very smart men listening. I'm going to tell you a little story while I land. I moved recently. I could not find the cord to connect my microphone to my laptop. I could find 6 color-coded cords for my vibrators, and thank you, Pure Romance. They're genius. The cord matches the toy, but I couldn't find my podcast mic cord, and I'm slightly frazzled, but still inspired to talk to you today about initiating sex, safety, and some really good men. 2 things that have happened that I need to talk about. I was having drinks with some of the ladies from jiu-jitsu, and we were talking about how men initiate sex in long-term relationship. And I believe I touched on this, but it is worth saying again, because we're going to talk about some conditions for initiating sex if you want to please a woman. And the initiating in a long-term relationship is kind of like getting out of the shower and showing their dicks, or poking them with an erection at 9:45 at night after the kids are in bed. The days of romance and flowers and emotional attunement seem to have gone out the window, and we're in this sex is relaxation. Sex is a way to connect when we can't connect. We don't have the tools to connect emotionally. And I mean this on both sides, because superwomen, we know that we are very good at being attuned to our partner's feelings, but we are not so attuned to our own. So the combination of men not knowing how to initiate and women not feeling safe. So I was watching this series, highly recommended by my friends off campus. It's a book series written by Al Kennedy. And we know that I'm all about a man written by a woman. Hello, heated rivalry. So there's 2 things that I would like to point out from this show. One of the male lead characters asks one of his hockey teammates, and this is in college, it's like college romance, about how to make sex good for a woman that he likes. And the teammate responds and basically says she needs to feel safe. And that's the number 1 condition. First, I was impressed, and then I was like, this show has to be written by a woman. And then they take it even further. So the woman that he is about to be intimate with is a sexual assault survivor, and she is dealing with anorgasmia. So she can orgasm on her own, but not with a man since her assault. And this is very common. And this is also common without assault. This is also common in relationships where women do not feel safe. I speak to at least 1 woman a week who cannot orgasm with her partner. And a lot of the things that we do, or the tips that you read online, are about toys, lube, making sure you're relaxed. But we need safety, fundamental safety within ourselves, and feeling safe with whomever we are choosing to be intimate with. So this other scene, when I wanted to give a standing ovation to this show, was the scene when they are about to be intimate. And as any sexual assault trauma survivor will know, things can be going great, and then somewhere your body remembers, your nervous system remembers you're in fight, flight, freeze, and your turn on is gone. The pleasure centers in your brain are off. And this character makes it his priority to make her feel safe. And then they highlight mutual masturbation. And if you've been here for a long time, you know that I've been a proponent of this since the dawn of time. And he tells her to show him how she gets herself off. So we have 2 people, full autonomy, witnessing each other's pleasure without her nervous system getting triggered, without the demand of penetration as our heteronormative version of how we define sex. And I just cannot say enough about this scene, and I cannot say enough about highlighting safety. And I wish that that is what I would have been watching on TV in my early years, and not the trope of first there's kissing, then there's oral, maybe, and then penetration, and 2 seconds later, everyone is having a mutual orgasm. So in this scene, he completely removes performative pleasure and completely gives her autonomy. And maybe this would be triggering for some women, but let's unpack it a little bit and talk about the conditions of safety that you need before you even initiate. Okay, because if you feel safe, if you are emotionally attuned, and your partner does walk out of the shower naked or does give you the, hey, you're going to be open, you're going to be receptive, but we need the safety before we need the initiation. And I didn't even realize this years ago. I would teach on initiation, but we need to back it up a step. I'm going to talk about this clinically for a second. Sexual trauma dysregulates your sympathetic nervous system, the system that we need for arousal. And our body is doing what it is designed to do, which is to protect itself, to react to a perceived threat. And even being hyper aware of this and how your body works is not going to stop yourself from being triggered. I want to talk about the 3 conditions of safety that I teach on when we're creating a pleasure-centered relationship. A pleasure-centered relationship, for those of you that are new here, is one in which the load is shared. It's a relationship in which each person is the authority on their own experience. They have autonomy, they take accountability. Pleasure, meaning fulfillment, joy for everyone involved in the relationship and the people in the relationship system, is paramount. And the relationship is co-created for addition, not extraction. And if you are a high achiever listening, you most likely are in an extractive relationship where you give way more than you receive. And I'm so glad you're here, and I love your people pleasing ass, but we're healing that shit and we're doing it messy together. Little tangent there. Okay, so conditions that we need for good sex, and this is before we even start to initiate. Physiological safety. Our nervous systems have to be out of survival mode for arousal to fully take place, for touch to feel most pleasurable, to have the most intense orgasms. We need to feel safe and relaxed. I'm going to give you a quick example. Client, tech executive, she's a primary earner, husband doesn't work. She's achieved everything. She's checked all the boxes, but she's not happy. She's numb, feels like she's watching her life. She said, my bank account's full, but my heart and my vagina are not, was what she said to me on our first call. She even initiates sex because that's what she thought she should do. She'd go numb mid-encounter and sort of check out, be out of her body. Her breaks, the turn offs, were fully engaged before she even got into bed. The threat for her wasn't even her partner. It wasn't even abuse. It was just a nervous system running in survival 24/7, and she couldn't shut it down. So she did not have internal safety. Okay. A lot of her work was actually not about her relationship. It was about her worthiness and how much she thought she had to achieve, and that she didn't think she deserved to feel good or feel good without earning it. She had this belief that things had to be hard. We see this a lot with childhood trauma and the wires of pleasure and pain getting crossed. Okay. We had a bit, she didn't have any free time. Even though he didn't work, she still did the majority of the domestic labor and emotional labor for their household. So he was sort of in that child role. She was containing him, which we know is not sexy when it's that way all the time. We need to be able to contain each other. So this woman, not a lot of free time, not great at asking for help. Her husband also happy to golf and play video games and not really step up in the other departments. She can't really enjoy motherhood or enjoy her relationship because she still feels like the CEO and the manager. But her work was creating physiologic safety in herself, in her own body, when she was triggered all the time. So, what does it feel like to feel safe? What does it feel like to feel pleasure? She needed to train those, practice like a muscle. And for those of you like myself that are sexual assault survivors, when we are triggered, how are we handling it in the moment? Do we know how to soothe ourselves, create safety in ourselves when we're triggered? And you will find a lot of those how to's on the Pleasure Path, my Substack, which we will link in the show notes. The second condition for safety in pleasure centered relationships is consent that is clean and continuous. Okay, this isn't just a one time agreement or that we just keep repeating the same things over and over. It's ongoing, it's granular, it's emotional attunement, it's spoken, and it's not always assumed from prior experiences. I'll give you an example of another client who is starting to date after being in a controlling relationship. The new partner is very safe, nothing like her ex, but she still finds herself saying yes when she's not quite ready, agreeing mid encounter to things that she hadn't wanted to do, not because he was pressuring her, but because in the past her no had been conditioned out of her. Being able to have a full fuck yes and a full no, no, never, or no, not right now. Maybe I'll try that in a different context. If you don't have a full yes and a full no in your relationship that is ongoing and that both people are able to vocalize, okay, we need to get over the days of being butthurt that you wanted to have sex and your partner didn't, okay, because maybe they're exhausted, they're not feeling well, whatever the case may be. But this whole us being scared of rejection and all these stories that we have about what it means about us or our relationship or our attractiveness, if you don't have a full yes and a full no in your ability to speak them, you really don't have the foundations of intimacy. And consent isn't just what you say to someone else. It also starts with, can you hear yourself? Can you hear your desires and your wants and your needs? Or are you defaulting to people pleasing, even in the bedroom, because you want to please the other person? Okay. And sometimes we do not want to have sex because we are with an under-functioning partner. So many heterosexual men lie to themselves about sex. They say they want more of it. They claim to want more of it, yet they refuse to do anything to actually make their partners want to have sex with them, like stepping up around the house, like helping out with the kids, like figuring out how to get her off or making it about her pleasure. Women want sex that is good for them. They will move mountains to have sex that is good for them. So anytime I have a husband in my DMs complaining that my wife doesn't want to have sex with me, well, sir, what are you doing to make sex good for her? What are you doing to make her feel safe? Okay. And sometimes, it's like a good slap. It hits them between the eyes and they go, oh, okay. Like they wake up from the patriarchal Kool-Aid that they've been drinking and they want to learn. And I love that for them, and even more so for their partners. And other times they come at me, and that's okay too, because not everyone is ready for accountability, and not everyone is capable to hold the sensation of real love and pleasure and power. The third condition is autonomy over your own pleasure. And this is a very hard one for superwomen to learn because we like to do things right. We like to please our partner. We're hardworking, we're loyal, we're tolerant. And I have women that tolerate mediocre sex for decades in their relationship. Their partners have no idea. You talk to their partners and they're like, oh, yeah, we have great sex. And she's like, I've been faking it for 13 years. So we've got this massive disconnect. But superwomen, with your super traits, you remain the authority on what your body wants at every moment. Okay, and this doesn't mean we are givers too. I know you like to please, and I know that you are good at that because you've spent a lifetime doing that. But what you need to practice is the receiving side, because that's what good sex is. That's what good partnership is. It's give and take, topping, bottoming. In a pleasure-centered relationship, neither person's pleasure is contingent on performing, producing. It's about sensation and what each person's body requires. And in the mutual masturbation scene in Off Campus, it worked because he gave her her autonomy. There was consent. There wasn't extraction. There wasn't pressure. There wasn't obligation. And most of the women that I work with, even the women that have worked with me for years, one of the hardest things for them to unwind and them to understand is that their desire and their turn on is their own. And like that warmth, that heat, that magnetism, that pull when she's aroused and turned on, that is hers. It's not a man making her feel that way. It's not a smutty novel like the Elle King series. That turn on is hers. It's in her body, and it is hers to choose who to share it with. And when we've been taught the male-centered version of sex, right? Penis and vagina. Sex is what men find most pleasurable, which is penetration. And we ignore the conditions of safety. We ignore that, women like to be pursued and cherished, and men want to be respected. My disdain of being respected, but without taking any of the actions or doing the conditions to have better sex. That's a thanks to the patriarchy. If we are learning to feel safe so we can want more sex because our partner wants us to, or if we're learning sex techniques because we think that that's going to make it better for our partner. And again, learning your partner's body, learning how they like to be touched, all of these things are a mutual two-way street in pleasure-centered sex. But when your sole purpose is to learn how to have better sex for him, we've lost the ship on safety. It begins in us. And remember, your turn on is your own, and choose wisely who you share your light with. If this hit home and you want to learn more, head to the Pleasure Path Substack and subscribe. You're going to find a lot of how-tos there, the things that I teach my clients. We're just really starting to build that out, and you're not going to want to miss it. And if this landed and you don't feel safe and you want to work on this, if you're healing from trauma, if you have left a coercive relationship and you're dating again and you want to be intimate again and want to have emotional safety, physical safety, autonomy over your pleasure, all the things that we talked about in this episode, head to the show notes, fill out an application, me and you, 12 weeks. We can figure out what's going to work for you, what's going to work for your body with my private coaching. fill out the application. You and I will hop on a call, make sure that it's a fit, and I'm going to help you with practical tools to navigate this so you can have a pleasure-centered relationship and pleasure-centered sex. No more performing, no more fuckboys unless you want them, no more under-functioning children partners. Just clarity, accountability, devotion, and the exchange of some really, really hot sexual energy. Until next time, Superwomen.